Beginning with the Homeric hymn to Demeter, we'll find some themes that are familiar from our general knowledge of how ancient myths worked. We all know the story of how Demeter was connected with her daughter, and Persephone got a little bit, went astray, got sucked down to the underworld. She had needed to be extracted from that situation. Her mother was deeply upset by it, and her having been upset by it makes a connection with her fertility and her dominion over the earth and its reproductivity means that when she's upset, that means that that reproductivity doesn't happen so much. We all remember that this story is connected with the seasons. We have a story of fertility then connected with a careful rendering of a mother-daughter relationship. There's also going to be built into this story, we'll see in a coming lecture, strong themes that connect to women's transitions in the cycle of the aging of a woman. Movement from childhood to adulthood and puberty, entrance into marriage and childbearing years, and then moving from there into old age and beyond childbearing years. Each of these is a very rich theme pulled out. What I wanted to start our discussion with, though, harkens back to our last lecture. I wanted to look at the ritual elements that are connected in Homer's hymn to Demeter, and very specifically drawn out and made reference to in our story. There are strong identifiable links with one particular ancient festival, that is the Eleusinian Mysteries. I've written on top of a map here to give us a description of what generally happens in the Eleusinian Mysteries. You can see we start off with Athens. That's there in our circle. A quick trip down to Piraeus gives us a chance to get our ablutions done and we clean ourselves up. There's purification that happens at Piraeus at the sea. Then a trip back to Athens, and there's a couple of days that unfold there with some ceremonies that go on. The main procession then gets started on the 5th day as we move from Athens over across. We get some taunts thrown at us. Ritual abuse gets hurled at us as we go over a bridge crossing a river. We make, strangely, we're going to talk about what that is in a second, we make our way to Eleusis, where the main ceremony happens there in days 6 and 7, followed by a procession on day 9, and we make our way home. A very famous 9-day festival in antiquity, and it was well known from as far back as we have written records. There is reference to this Eleusinian mystery. Now, we don't know a lot of the details. What we do know comes from this Homeric hymn to Demeter. There's not much we can use prior to this to give us more evidence. Instead, what we do is try to fill it out with, as best we can, the archaeological record and some references in later sources, most of which, though, are probably dependent on the tradition that we have right in front of us. What we know about the connection between the story told in the Homeric hymn to Demeter and the Eleusinian Mysteries, there are connections that are really interesting to see right off the bat. First of all, there's a location connection. Demeter, when she gets to Eleusis, finds a place that she's trying to work out her grief with the loss of her daughter. This tells us right away that there's a special connection between Demeter and these mysteries located at Eleusis. Eleusis is famous for these. The name Mysteries gets pulled out in the story. We hear that Demeter understands that these rites in her honor are going to be mysteries in her honor. There's a focus on fertility in the Eleusinian Mysteries, which is clearly an important component of the Homeric hymn to Demeter. We have explicit discussion in the story of the setting up of explicit rites. Demeter wants to make sure that there is a temple made to her and that an altar is set up for her. This comes up in multiple times during the story. It's not a small part of what Demeter's demands are, that the world pay her back for the loss of her daughter. We hear about secrecy and initiation. There will be an initiation into these mysteries, and that initiation should be according to a process that's not shared with everybody, that should be secret. That's characteristic of the Eleusinian Mysteries. It's mentioned explicitly in the hymn. A 9-day period, such as we know the Eleusinian Mysteries followed, is also referenced in our story. We get a sense that the 9-day chunk of time is important. There's reference to Demeter wandering around for 9 days. We hear of a special drink that she insists that she have. When she's offered wine, a human drink, gods wouldn't probably drink that. Instead, she asks that a special drink be made for her, water with barley and pennyroyal. We know that this played an important part in the Eleusinian Mysteries ritual tradition as well. This character, Yambe, shows up She is a character who cheers up Demeter by offering some kind of funny things and some kind of lighthearted commentary that she gives. This also is the name in antiquity of a tradition of nasty satirical poetry that's very, very funny and does add a kind of humorous tone to whatever it treats. It also is pretty direct, racy, and a little bit, its satire is not gentle. Now, the harshness that's involved in the form of the yambos, the ancient satiric genre that's referenced through this name, also has a connection with this procession. Remember, we mentioned that at a certain point during the procession, the celebrants go over a bridge, over a river, and they're teased mercilessly. There are others that are hidden underneath there that hurl nasty insults and epithets at people that are processing. We're wondering, that doesn't seem quite so holy. Well, it is indeed a part of the festival, and it's built right in here to our account of Demeter's story. Yambe shows up, we think, as making a reference to this moment of ritual abuse that's built into the cultic ceremony. There's a promise in the Eleusinian mysteries also of a better afterlife. That's an interesting thing to show up in ancient ritual. Mostly, ancient cultic worship is about giving the gods a gift and asking the gods to be kind in return. Mostly it is not about securing some position in an afterlife. For the most part, as we saw in Homer, it's not a good thing to be dead. The world in the underworld is not a place normally where ethical scores are settled. Instead, all of us, whether we were grand folks or not so grand, just live this kind of gray life, and it's much better to be alive than to be dead. In the mystery religions, there is a different kind of thing that's promised, and this is a promise of a long and enduring afterlife where things would be very nice for you. Rather than live out as a gray shade among the other gray shades, those who had been through the mystery and been initiated into the cult had learned a special secret code word. That code word could let them into a nicer place where they could spend all of eternity. Rather than being a gray shade among all the others, they'd have a nicer afterlife as long as they knew the special code word that could get them in. In a way, I'm not sure how hard I push this, but in a way it's a little bit like being consigned to have to spend your whole life waiting in an airport, but someone sneaks over and gives you a special code so you can get into the Admirals Club for frequent flyers, and they'll treat you nice. Those that are stuck in the airport are kind of like those in the gray shade area. Those with the special code to get into the Admirals Club get taken care of well. That's a little bit, I think, what's imagined is going to happen if you've got the special code from being initiated into the mysteries. Now, that quality and characteristic of the Eleusinian mysteries is reflected in our story in the deep meditation on the power and possibilities of immortality in the face of mortality. We see Persephone, this mortal god, who's going through a kind of death as she visits the underworld and comes back out. There's a way in which the immortals and what you and I are consigned to, we poor mortals, that eventually we die, there's a way in which their world comes closer to ours, and a way in which an afterlife is at least suggested that could include some of the things that the grand immortals even experience. So there's a connection between mortality and immortality built into the sequence of the story. The exclusive rites that are practiced at Eleusis included a code of secrecy. We have already mentioned that as being a part of it. And I thought to close out this lecture, I would just reveal to you the secret of the Eleusinian mysteries. Well, it's not really me that's doing it. It's a Christian writer named Clement of Alexandria. And in a piece of his writing, the Exhortation to the Greeks, he gives, in a way, he's trying to actually be quite nasty with these Greeks. He says, look, they have this totally silly ritual that they practice in honor of this god that they think is of Demeter, and they have this secret code word that's supposed to be so important in their initiation rites. Well, here, I'm going to reveal their secret code word. And Clement of Alexandria writes it down and tells us, reveal it to us what it is. Well, I'm just passing it on here. Clement tells us that this was the secret code at the Eleusinian mysteries. I have fasted, I have drunk the mixture, I have taken from the box. Having done the deed, I put it back into the basket, and out of the basket into the box. Now, if Clement is conveying it accurately, who knows? All of us now know the secrets of the Eleusinian mysteries. In our next lecture, we're going to dig into the thematics and try to talk about the many rich characters that are being portrayed in this Homeric hymn to Demeter. Look forward to talking to you about that then.